I'm an innocent man, Your Honor, and I have always been an innocent man, Your Honor.
If the defendant will please stand. We, the jury, find the defendant, Daniel Villegas, not guilty of...
This is Daniel Villegas, who was imprisoned for a crime he never committed, a double homicide in El Paso, Texas. Villegas was only 16 years old when he was arrested, and during his interrogation, an El Paso detective allegedly threatened him with beatings and the death penalty if he didn't confess. Terrified and coerced, the young Villegas signed a prepared confession provided by the detectives. Shortly after signing the confession, Villegas tried to retract it, realizing the grave mistake he had made. However, it was too late. He was charged with 2 counts of capital murder, with the false confession serving as the sole piece of evidence against him. Despite the lack of concrete proof, the jury was unable to reach a verdict in his first trial. After a retrial, Villegas was again found guilty and received a life sentence. He spent 18 long years behind bars, fighting for justice and maintaining his innocence. Finally, his unwavering efforts paid off when the verdict was overturned, and he was granted bail, allowing him to get married and start a family while awaiting a third trial. The third trial was held, and the jury made a life-changing announcement.
If the defendant will please stand. Verdict Form B. We, the jury, find the defendant, Daniel Villegas, not guilty of...
Emotions erupted as Villegas, now a free man, realized that he could return home to his family. In the end, Daniel Villegas filed a lawsuit against the city of El Paso, seeking accountability for the grave injustices he endured during those 18 years of wrongful imprisonment. However, this wasn't the only time a convict became emotional after they were exonerated. Take, for example, the case of Susan Mellon, a woman who was wrongfully sentenced to life in prison without parole based on untruthful testimony. At 42 years old, she was arrested in Los Angeles, California, while taking her daughter to get a Happy Meal at McDonald's.
From my heart and my soul, I would never do that to anybody. I didn't hate Rick. I would never let anybody think that I hated her. I had feelings for the man. He was good for me. He was good to me. He was good to my kids. He loved my kids. And I went to a funeral, and it was like, it was a 6 a.m. what he did.
Little did she know that this would be the last time she would ever see her child for more than 5 years, as she was charged with the murder of an ex-boyfriend. Mellon's conviction rested entirely on the testimony of an informant who asserted that Mellon had admitted to the crime. As a result, Mellon served a full 17-year sentence before it was established that the informant was a compulsive liar and an untrustworthy witness. Finally, the moment arrived when Mellon's case was overturned.
I believe, based on what I've read, that she's innocent. And for that reason, I think the criminal justice system failed.
The court declared the case against Mellon dismissed, bringing tears of relief and joy to her. Upon her release, Mellon took her daughter to McDonald's to finally deliver the long-awaited Happy Meal.
Is that your first cell phone?
Yeah, I never had one. I don't even know how to turn it on. I'm free! Ah! I'm in a car!
The state of California awarded her $597,000 in compensation for the wrongful imprisonment she endured. Additionally, the Los Angeles City Council agreed to pay $12 million to Susan Mellon, recognizing the profound injustice she suffered. However, while it was clear that Mellon was convicted unjustly and spent 17 years behind bars, her reaction to their exoneration was similar to the case of John Bunn, a man who endured a heart-wrenching 27-year-long wrongful conviction for murder, even while maintaining his innocence throughout. At the age of 14, he was arrested in Brooklyn, New York, by NYPD Detective Louis Scarcella. This unjust arrest marked the beginning of a long and arduous journey for Bunn. For 16 years, he was behind bars and on parole for 11 years. Yet, he continued to fight tirelessly to prove his innocence.
I'm an innocent man, Your Honor, and I have always been an innocent man, Your Honor.
Despite facing numerous obstacles, Bunn never wavered in his quest for justice. The basis for this landmark decision was the discovery of Detective Scarcella's wrongdoing and the glaring lack of probable cause for Bunn's initial arrest.
I want y'all to know that y'all convicted and had a wrong man in prison.
I want to say thank you, Your Honor, because it's been 27 years I've been fighting for my life.
It was evident that Bunn had been wrongly convicted and unjustly incarcerated for nearly 3 decades. After an exhausting and emotional battle to clear his name, John Bunn was finally exonerated. In an emotional moment within the courtroom, he shared a moment with the judge, a powerful reminder of the immense toll wrongful convictions take on innocent lives. Following his exoneration, John Bunn took legal action and filed a lawsuit against the city of New York and Detective Scarcella, seeking accountability for the grave miscarriage of justice he endured. However, John Bunn isn't alone in his courtroom actions. Let's not forget the infamous incident involving Ricky Jackson, a man who endured an agonizing 39 years of wrongful imprisonment for a murder he did not commit. At the age of 18, Jackson was arrested in Cleveland, Ohio, based on the testimony of a 12-year-old boy named Eddie Vernon, who later admitted that he never witnessed the murder and had been coerced by the police into testifying against Jackson. Originally sentenced to death in the electric chair, Jackson spent 2 harrowing years on death row before his sentence was reduced to life in prison. For nearly 4 decades, he fought tirelessly to prove his innocence. Finally, at the age of 52, Eddie Vernon came forward with the truth, admitting that he had never seen the murder take place. With this revelation, the charges against Jackson were dropped, and he was finally set free.
Mr. Jackson, you're going to be free to go. Life is filled with small victories, and this is a big one. I wish you good luck. Thank you, Your Honor.
You can see the relief when Jackson heard he was free to go. The joy and relief were visible as he stepped outside for the first time as a free man. His release marked a significant victory, and life presented him with a long-awaited chance to start anew. In recognition of the grave injustice he had endured, Jackson received $1 million in compensation from the state and an additional $2.65 million for the income he had lost during his wrongful imprisonment. However, while Jackson's reaction was touching, it's nothing compared to the emotional reactions of Clemente Aguirre Jarquin. On the morning of June 17, 2004, the bodies of 47-year-old Cheryl Williams and 68-year-old Carol Barris were tragically discovered in their Altamonte Springs, Florida home. Both were brutally stabbed to death. Cheryl's daughter Samantha Williams' boyfriend, Mark Van Sant, found the bodies while picking up clothes for Samantha. Suspicion quickly fell on Clemente Aguirre Jarquin, Samantha's 24-year-old roommate at 117 Vagabond Way, who had found the bodies and tried to help save them. Aguirre Jarquin, an illegal immigrant from Honduras, was arrested for tampering with evidence at the crime scene. The prosecution built its case on an unreliable informant and circumstantial evidence.
I didn't do it. I don't kill nobody.
Despite Aguirre Jarquin's protests that he was innocent, the prosecution argued that the murder weapon, a 10-inch kitchen knife, was similar to those used at the restaurant where Aguirre Jarquin worked. During the trial in 2006, the jury convicted him of first-degree murder and burglary, and he was sentenced to death despite his protestations that he was innocent. However, doubts about his guilt emerged when it was revealed that a fingerprint analyst had made a wrongful identification. Aguirre Jarquin's legal team fought for DNA testing of over 80 pieces of evidence, which excluded him as the source of DNA at the crime scene.
I do know that nobody believed me back then. No one. Besides my mother, nobody believed me.
While Samantha's DNA was found in locations consistent with her being the attacker. In 2016, the Florida Supreme Court ordered a new trial, recognizing Aguirre Jarquin as a scapegoat for Samantha's crimes. The retrial began in 2018, but an immigration hold was placed on him after his release on bond. Suddenly, in November 2018, the prosecution dismissed all charges against Aguirre Jarquin, citing new evidence that impacted a crucial state witness's credibility. He was exonerated, and this is what it meant to him.
And I thank you for it, from the bottom of my heart.
Eventually, Aguirre Jarquin sought to be declared a wrongly convicted person in order to seek compensation from the state of Florida. Unfortunately, a judge dismissed the petition, stating that it was filed too late. However, while his actions could be dismissed as an effect of ignorance, the same can't be said for the case of Deborah Jean Milk, a German-American woman who faced a nightmarish ordeal when she was wrongfully convicted in the shooting death of her 4-year-old son, Christopher Conan Milk, on December 2, 1989. Alongside her alleged conspirators, James Lynn Stiers and Roger Mark Scott, she was sentenced to death. Both Stiers and Scott, however, exonerated her, stating that she was not present during the shooting, leaving the actual identity of the shooter uncertain. The case against Milk heavily relied on the testimony of Phoenix Police Detective Armando Saldate Jr., who claimed that Milk confessed to him. However, there was no corroborating evidence to support this alleged confession, and Milk vehemently denied ever confessing to the crime.
I had absolutely nothing to do with the brutal murder of my son, Christopher. And I did not give a confession to Mr. Saldate.
Saldate's credibility came under scrutiny, as he was later accused of perjury and had a history of misconduct. Questions surrounding whether a confession actually occurred, if Milk voluntarily waived her Miranda rights, and the prosecution withholding Saldate's personnel record from the defense became critical issues during her appeals.
My innocence did not matter in their pursuit of a conviction.
After over 25 years in prison, the conviction became increasingly controversial, leading to a 3-judge panel of the United States Ninth Circuit Court to unanimously upturn her conviction in March 2013.
Losing a child to murder is a devastating tragedy. Being falsely accused of a crime you didn't commit is also a devastating tragedy. Try to imagine that. What happened to me can happen to anyone.
The judges heavily criticized the conviction, pointing out the failure to disclose Saldate's history of misconduct and lying under oath, which would have been essential to assessing his credibility during the trial. Subsequently, Deborah Milk was released on a $250,000 bond by Judge Rosa P. Emros of the Maricopa County Superior Court. Despite attempts by the county prosecutor to appeal the decision, the state Supreme Court blocked a proposed retrial. Finally, on March 23, 2015, all charges against Milk were formally dismissed with prejudice by Judge Emros. After she was released, Milk filed a civil lawsuit against the city of Phoenix, Maricopa County, Bill Montgomery, Armando Saldate, and others, alleging malicious prosecution and denial of a fair trial. However, the lawsuit faced setbacks and was eventually dismissed by a federal judge in 2020. If you thought these reactions were shocking, you'd be amazed at this video of kids reacting to life sentences.